arrival of the Honorable Deputy Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, accompanied by Dr. Amiruddin Wahab and other dignitaries. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the walk-in procession of the NICTSeD 2014 finalists, accompanied by the panels of experts, backed by the bagpipers from ACS Ipoh. Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem Negaraku will now be played. Kindly rise. Thank you very much. Kindly be seated. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam satu Malaysia. Yang berhormat Dato Dr. Abu Bakar bin Muhammad Diah, the Deputy Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. Yang berbahagia Dato Dr. Muhammad Azhar bin Haji Yahya, the Deputy Secretary General Policy, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. Yang berusaha Dr. Amiruddin bin Abdul Wahab, the Chief Executive Officer of Cyber Security Malaysia. Yang berusaha Tuan Haji Samsudin bin Hassan, the Deputy Director of Educational Technology Division, Ministry of Education. Yang berusaha Tuan Haji Muhammad Fadli bin Tarmizi, Head of Sector Information Management ICT, Perak Education Department. Learned panels of experts, NICTSeD 2014 participants and finalists, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon and a warm welcome to the National ICT Security Discourse CyberSafe Challenge Trophy 2014 Grand Finale. Our utmost appreciation to our guest of honor, the Honorable Deputy Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation for his gracious attendance and to officially close this auspicious ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, NICTSeD is Malaysia's first national ICT security school discourse in collaboration with the Ministry of Education and MOSTI. It has been instrumental in disseminating knowledge and awareness on internet safety to school children and teachers in a creative, innovative, and interesting way. It is organized in a debate format aimed at producing smart and ethical internet users in encouraging the creative and critical thinking of its participants on current internet and cyber issues. 15 schools from all over the country qualified to participate in this discourse from the 9th to the 13th November, and this afternoon we will get to see the two finalists on stage. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we begin the afternoon session with a doa recital led by Yang Berusan Cik Ahmad Fauzi Ahmad Fuad from CSM. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu Muhammad ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. In the name of Allah, I beg thee of all good things which pertains to this day and days hereafter, and seek thy protection from all evil which pertains to this day and days hereafter. Allah, you are peace, and all peace is from you, and all peace returns to you, O Master of power and glory. In conjunction with the ceremony of National ICT Security Discourse CyberSafe Challenge Trophy 2014 Grand Finale. Guide us among those whom you guide. Grant us health and pardon among those whom you grant health and pardon. Allahumma ya majib ad-da'wat wa qadiyal hajat. O Allah, unite us for the right solution on cybersecurity management between all states and nations, between all departments and agencies, and also provide us with a full knowledge on information technology and communication disciplines. Grant us the benefits of this knowledge sharing for our future. Allahumma aftah alayna hikmataka wanshur alayna min khazaini rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdata min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Wa sallallahu ala sayidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Amin, amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. Thank you very much, Ustaz, with the doa. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite the Chief Executive Officer of CSM, Dr. Amiruddin Abdul Wahab, to deliver his welcome speech. Please welcome Dr. Amiruddin.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Terima kasih saudara pengacara majlis. Yang berhormat Dato Dr. Abu Bakar bin Muhammadiyah, Deputy Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. Yang berbahagia Dato Dr. Muhammad Azhar bin Haji Yahya, Deputy Secretary General Policy, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. Yang berusaha Tuan Haji Samsudin bin Hassan, Deputy Director of Educational Technology Division, Ministry of Education. Yang berusaha Tuan Haji Muhammad Fazli bin Tarmiji, Head of Sector Information Management, Perak Education Department. Panels of experts, members of the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi, salam sejahtera, and a very good afternoon. First and foremost, I would like to welcome Yang berhormat Dato Dr. Abu Bakar Muhammadiyah, Deputy Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, for taking time off from his busy schedule to attend the National ICT Security Discourse on NICTSeD, the CyberSafe Challenge Trophy 2014. I would also like to thank the Ministry of Education, MOE, for extending great support and resources to organize this event. The inaugural National ICT Security Debate held last year attracted keen participation from 14 schools. It was indeed our great pleasure to have witnessed during the National ICT Security Discourse CyberSafe Challenge Trophy 2014 competition, a very impressive command of oratory skills and keen competition from our students as they engage with the subject of ICT. The competition has clearly brought out the creative and critical capability of the participants as they address current internet and technological issues. This certainly confirms that the steps taken by Cybersecurity Malaysia and the Malaysian government to develop knowledge-based professionals in the future workforce is in the right direction. This year, 16 teams signed up for the competition, with a total of 80 participants. I am pleased to note that the standard of competition this year has been very high. The discourse in the CyberSafe Challenge Trophy 2014 competition, participants are required to demonstrate their grasp of the subject verbally as well as in written form. A discourse is an intellectual and analytical challenge for participants to undertake a comparative analysis and understanding of ICT. Besides presenting their proposal, the team members will have to answer questions from the panel of experts who acted as a jury. Thus, the team does not only have to defend their point of view, but they have to ensure their presentations stands up to close scrutiny by the panel of experts. Ladies and gentlemen, we at Cybersecurity Malaysia are particularly proud to be involved with schools because a large percentage of internet users are the young. The internet opens up immense sources for young Malaysians to draw knowledge from. As they say, knowledge is now accessible at a click. There are online encyclopedias, dictionaries and thesaurus, online museums, and even free online university courses. All these sources enrich our young as they progress through the formal schools. Our students today are better informed than when their parents or grandparents were young. Indeed, the use of digital tools and media is supporting all spheres of life in society today. However, the internet can be misused. It has been reported in the media that school children are spending most of their leisure time playing online games or on internet chats and various other social medias. Not only is valuable time wasted, but these students risk encountering dangers online. The internet is a source of much undesirable materials. These materials are harmful influences on morals and character building. This misuse of the internet is a national concern that Cybersecurity Malaysia is presently addressing. Cybersecurity Malaysia is at the forefront to educate young Malaysians on the proper use of the internet through our community program called CyberSafe, which is cybersecurity awareness for everyone. Launched in 2011, CyberSafe in Schools delivers year-long nationwide programs to primary and secondary schools across the country. A national CyberSafe survey, which was conducted by one of our smart partners, DG Telecommunication, was successfully completed earlier this year. With the theme Safety Net Capacity Building among Malaysian school children on staying safe online, the 2014 survey gathered responses of approximately 14,000 school children nationwide who participated in the CyberSafe in School workshops. The survey obtained information on several areas of internet-related behavior, and these included online safety, cyberbullying, and support networks for personal concerns. The key findings of the report reveal that 40% of our school children do not know how to protect themselves online. A significant 83% of them are vulnerable to online risk due to minimal protective actions taken. In addition, some 70% of school children are not concerned about the invasion of their privacy or the anonymity of the person they interact with. Cybersecurity Malaysia has also been actively participating in Safer Internet Day annual events. Safer Internet Day is a landmark global event in the online safety calendar initiated by the European Union Safe Borders back in 2004, which has grown beyond its traditional geographic zone and celebrated in more than 100 countries worldwide. The 12th Safer Internet Day will be celebrated worldwide next year on Tuesday, 10th of February 2015. The theme is Let's Create a Better Internet Together. I am pleased to report that Cybersecurity Malaysia will once again participating in the celebration, and I call upon all Malaysians, children and young people, parents and carers, teachers and educators to join us in marking the day and working together to build a safer internet for all. Ladies and gentlemen, as parents, we need to inculcate in our children good online behavior and responsible use of technology from young. There should be parental guidance, advice, or rules to govern children's use of the internet. Indeed, it may be necessary in some cases for parents to install online controls, such as software to filter or monitor internet use. I am looking forward for an engaging and challenging discourse on ICT thoughts and ideas. This will strengthen the digital literacy and make the participants a better digital citizen for the future. To the participants, I am proud of all of you for reaching this stage. A great achievement indeed to be in the final, and I'm certain your parents and family will be too. I would like to take this opportunity to wish the two finalists of the CyberSafe Challenge Trophy for this year all best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yang Berusa Dr. Amiruddin, for the welcome speech. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the moment the finalists of NICTSeD 2014 CyberSafe Challenge Trophy been waiting for. The moment of truth, which team will emerge as this year's champion, will be decided of this final round of intense and intellectual discourse. And to facilitate this grand finale, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairperson of NICTSeD 2014, Ms. Kavita Murthy from Haytech Managed Services.
Very good afternoon. Selamat sejahtera, distinguished guests, members of media, participants, and also members of the schools, not to forget. Very good afternoon and welcome to the finale of National ICT Security Discourse CyberSafe Challenge Trophy 2014. We'll start the discourse session now. First of all, let me introduce the timekeepers for this session today. They are Nik Nur Izzatul Iqmal binti Muhammad Nur and Shifa binti Zukri. Both are from University Technology Petronas. Ladies and gentlemen, the panel of experts who will judge today's discourse, please give a big round of applause to Ms. Tan Wan Ying, who also acts as the Chief of POAs from Ministry of Education, and Cezari Yunus, Chief Operation Officer from Cybersecurity Malaysia, Puan Rozana Rusli, Executive Director from KPMG, Lieutenant Colonel Suzali Sukardi, the VP Research from Cybersecurity Malaysia, Philip Ling, Principal of Communications and Corporate Responsibility from DG Telecommunications Sdn Bhd, Shafika Anissa, Senior Analyst, Security Management and Best Practices from Cybersecurity Malaysia, Encik Malay Besri, Assistant Chief of POEs from Ministry of Education. And last but not least, the Chief Technical Officer for National ICT Security Discourse, CyberSafe Challenge Trophy is Puan Umi Kalsum Nayan from Ministry of Education. Ladies and gentlemen, the proposal for today's discourse is, in an organization with regards to leakages of information, what poses to be the biggest threat? Ignorance, whistleblowing, technology, or lack of policies. To present and bind the proposals for the National ICT Security Discourse, Cyber Safe Challenge Trophy in this final round are, on my right, the team from Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Alor Akar, Pahang. They are representing Team A. The first speaker is Muhammad Anwar bin Muhammad Lukman, who will play the role of CEO. The second speaker is Jason Lee Rin Juin. The third speaker is Naveen Vinosh Venudra. The fourth member of the team, who is also the techno expert, is Ainis Aliyah binti Zulkifli. She is also responsible to prepare slides of evidence or analysis of the team's proposal. Now, on my left are the members of Team B from Sekolah Dato Abdul Razak Seremban, Negeri, Sembilan. The first speaker is Aidat Zaki Amal. Second speaker is Adam Haikal bin Muhammad Hilmi. The third speaker is Irfan Anik bin Rozi Al. The fourth member of the team, who is also the techno expert, is Muhammad Ashraf. He is responsible to prepare slides of evidence or analysis of the team's proposal. The first part of this discourse is the delivery of each team's proposal. This will take 6 minutes for each speaker to present his or her ideas. Each speaker will speak alternatively, starting with the first speaker from Team A. Then the first speaker of the Team B will follow with his or her presentation, and this will be continued until the third speaker of Team B. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the floor, this year we will introduce a session called Enlightenment, and both teams will be given 5 minutes to prepare for the session. The session is a combination of reply speech with points of information, in which I'll be saying POIs. Any of the speaker may present their points. Both teams are given 10 minutes to present in this session. The enlightenment session will commence after 5 minutes given to prepare the enlightenment points. The first team that will kick off this session will be Team B. During the enlightenment, the first 4 minutes is given to each team to deliver a summary of their proposal. Then the bell will ring once at 4 minutes. Once again. And at the end of the 8th minute, in this duration of time, speakers from Team A may start asking Team B with their POIs, at least 2 POIs, and Team B may or may not answer the POIs. Finally, the bell will be rung twice at the 10 minutes to signal that the time is up. The session will be continued with Team A. The panel of experts will ignore any points raised when the stipulated time is up. Last session will be the question and answers that is called You Have My Interest. This is considered a bonus round whereby the panel of experts may ask questions to each team. This session will last for 7 minutes and the maximum questions are 2. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the 2014 National ICT Security Discourse Cyber Safe Challenge Trophy will begin. I repeat, the topic for today's discourse is, in an organization with regards to leakage of information, what poses to be a biggest threat? Ignorance, whistleblowing, technology, or lack of policies. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call upon the first speaker from the Team A, Muhammad Anwar bin Muhammad Lukman, to deliver his proposal.
A very good day I would like to bid to everyone present in this room today. Today, we are going to discuss on the topic, in an organization with regards of leakage of information, what poses to be a bigger threat? Now, What has been the biggest information security breach up to date? And who is the one who is behind it? Is it this guy? Is it a nerd that is capable of hacking stuff and taking information from it? No. It is simply a disgruntled insider with too much access and also aided by the transparency of the internet to invent this thing called WikiLeaks. When you see, as I stated, it is not that hard to leak information. Someone from a small organization can simply leak information in their organization. Now, when it's not easy, the number of these cases will increase. So, when it increases, what poses to be a bigger threat? Ignorance, lack of policies, technology, or whistleblowing. We today say that lack of policies and ignorance are the bigger threat to an organization. Now, lack of policies and ignorance goes hand in hand. Well, if the policies that an organization put up is not effective, then people will just simply ignore it. But if the policies are effective, some people will still ignore it. Now, let's talk about policies. For example of policies are password policies, security policies, but sometimes they are not enough. One policy, as an example, that is actually effective is to be vigilant. When I say vigilant, it means to keep your tech up to date and also have procedures in case of breaches. And when you say about ignorance, it's simply human behavior. It's hard to change. So when it's hard to change, it is a bigger threat. Now, let me introduce to you the roles for today. I, Anwar, as the CEO, represent to you what is leakage of information, what are the types, what are the vectors, and also what are the effects. Next, Jason, my COO, will then show you why organizations lack adequate policies, and also sometimes if it does have effective policies, people will still ignore it. Next, Nevin, my CIO, will show you the effects when having adequate policies. Last but not least, my CTO will be configuring our slides for today. Now, let us talk about the types of leakage of information. Well, one is intentionally, means it may be an insider job, someone from your company simply giving info from your company to a competing company. How can we repair this? What can be put up to prevent these insider jobs? Policies. You can make them sign a contract to not disclose information from the organization. Next, unintentional disclosing of information. There are lots of cases of this. Sometimes people disclose their information, then months later, then they realize that they actually unintentionally disclose their information. One thing is misplacement of a CD or a USB. So, as you can see here, it is affected by human behavior, which is also ignorance to sort stuff according to their category. The vectors are simple. It may be email, it may be a flash drive, and also physical communication. Now, what are the effects of it? When an organization is known to leak information, their organization will lose reputation. When their organization loses the reputation, some employees in that organization might leave, and also it is hard to get more employees since their reputations are low and people won't trust in these organizations anymore. So people don't trust, they lose customers, they lose market share, and they will suffer a lot from this leakage of information. Now, I don't have any Pahang slangs for cheer for you to end this speech. So I would just like to say thank you.
Thank you very much for our first speaker. You have heard the proposal raised by the first speaker. Now let me invite the leader from Team B, Aidat Zaki Amal, being the first speaker to deliver his proposal. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Iyad Zaki bin Amal and I am your Chief Executive Officer for today's proposal. Standing by my side is Adam Haikal, Ifan Anik, and the man behind those slides is Ashraf Abdul Qadir. Basically, I'm going to do three things. Number one, I'm going to explain to you about the general overview of our case. Number two, I'm going to explain about the points that we suggested on. And lastly, we will give you a no proposal. Organization is basically an entity or an institution or an association that has an elective goal. Number two, we think that those forms of organization consist of GOs, NGOs, IOs, or even non-profit organizations. Data leakage is basically a system or an info design or initially designed to close a particular info that has been breached or leaked to unauthorized people. We think there are very familiar of those cases, number one, but also it's a very common problem throughout the world. Like for example, Sami Kamka, who demonstrated the weakness in Visa, MasterCard, and also Europe Pay throughout NFC and also the radio frequency communication. The worst part was, and the problematic was that he released the software demonstrating the ability to steal the credit card info, number, and as well name wirelessly in that very particular idea. That's why we think when it comes to data leakage, it is very, very harmful, not just to an organization, but also to everyone else. But there's also statistics showing that there's an average total cost reporting that companies was more than 6.75 million based on Subhop's research. But also, data leakage makes up 68% when it comes to business loss. Then again, proving that more than half of the problems or the loss caused by business is actually from data leakage. So let's move on to what is the bigger threat. Now we're talking about the perspective of a company, of an organization, right? So we should look on how it really affects the organization as the priority in this particular topic. We think that when it comes to its companies, organizations, right, they are a profit base. They depend either on funds, on tax, or on the people to buy their products in order to succeed or to survive as a particular company. So let's move on to the biggest idea on whistleblowing, right? Basically, whistleblowing is the act of revealing a crime that has been somehow committed by your company, a company that you work for, right? But in a perspective of a company, we think whistleblowing is a big threat towards our company, towards a particular organization. For example, Everett Stern, he was a whistleblower. He was a CEO and he was as well an intelligence director. His case was about how HSBC, that particular bank, yes, was laundering and scandaling money, which led to a 1.92 billion fine against HSBC in 2012 in exchange for a different or a criminal prosecution for 5 years. We think that 1.92 billion is a lot of money, number one. Number two, even though they were able to pay that particular money, we think that it affected the reputation of HSBC as well as the image of HSBC in gaining new people or in getting new customers to actually apply for that bank or to keep that money there. We think that's one of the problems when it comes to whistleblowing in the perspective of a company, which is our priority in this particular topic. But also moving on to our second example, Sami Kamka, right? He was basically a privacy and security researcher. He is also a computer hacker, which means there's bigger possibility of him gaining data or access of a particular company that he works for. And he was also a whistleblower. He revealed the illicit mobile phone tracking of Apple iPhone, Google, and as well Microsoft Windows. These three popular devices was in threat during 2010-2011 for committing a crime which was GPS and Wi-Fi information to their parents' company. In other words, basically, if you're holding an iPhone or a Google phone or even an Android, they could track which location you are, even though you have all switched off those settings, and those information will be sent to the parent companies, to the headquarters of Apple, headquarters of Google. He revealed this information towards Google, where everybody was able to leak it, and he made Evercookie as a place where he created that software in revealing these forms of information. We think they settled or prices or market drop to 1.25% in that particular idea. So let's move on. What are the bigger threats towards whistleblowing towards these companies? Number one, financially. We think that when it comes to paying these fines, it's one problem. But then again, towards the second idea of reputation of a particular company, how it destroys the images of a particular company, especially when a company is new or when it's a low profit company. We think it's very problematic for them in order to gain new customers or in order to gain new market or in order to gain new profit. That's why we think it's very problematic in their perspective. Number three, how we think it also hampers progress. Knowing that companies depend on advertisement to tell about their products, right? But now that whistleblowing happens, right? And you reveal information. Therefore, it proves that how people will ignore this form of advertisements. And there's no way for them to reach out to the people. That's why we think it's important for you to analyze. In the perspective of a company or an organization where we are talking about, we think it's problematic. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, Adam will be talking about ignorance, and Arning over there will be presenting our new proposal. And with that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the leader from Team B. The Team A will now present their proposal. Please welcome the second speaker of Team A, Jason Lee Renjun.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, since we're talking about ineffective policies and ignorance today, right? Let me show you the prime example of a policy that many of you probably have already encountered, but ignored. Yes, honestly, how many of you, I wouldn't even say read through, even skimmed through the terms and conditions of a particular product before ticking the little checkbox beside it? I bet I could count the number of you who do so with one hand on my finger. So, why are we doing this? The fact is, the human mentality. We have to acknowledge the fact that humans are lazy. And I'm not saying this because I myself is lazy. I'm saying this because we humans are special. We try to find the easy way out of almost everything we get through. And in most times, this actually helps us reduce unnecessary workload, help us get things done fast, help us get things done efficiently. However, this also makes us prone to mistakes. And these mistakes is where leakage of information comes into play. So ladies and gentlemen, when we're talking about a threat, what are the criteria we have to evaluate which one of them is a bigger threat? Let me give you an example. I believe all of you here are familiar with the Ebola virus, right? The World Health Organization recently declared that Ebola is the biggest threat to global health in the 21st century. So why did they make such an announcement? 3 reasons. First of all, we still don't have a cure for Ebola. Second of all, we can't prevent Ebola in the name of a vaccine. Thirdly, it is very hard to contain and control Ebola. Therefore, in a nutshell, we are very vulnerable to Ebola. So I'm here today to show you that among the 4 proposals that we have that are posed to us today, that we humans, or corporations for that matter, are most vulnerable to committing mistakes that lead to the lack of policies and ignorance. So, a startling fact around here about the vulnerability of corporations. Take a look at this statistic. When we know about humans and technology in the current society, a startling big amount of CEOs actually think that a human factor is more dangerous than a technology sector. Why is that so? Because frankly, technology is created by human. And what human can create something even better. For instance, when we created viruses, antiviruses came up. When we created malware, anti-malware came up. When we created spyware, anti-spyware came up. But until now, have we seen an anti-lazy pill? If there was such a pill, I bet you teachers would love it, right? But unfortunately, there is none. So when we see we're talking about the human perspective, it is much more of an uncontrollable factor, much more of a variable we're talking about. In essence, when we talk about the security of a company, don't you think what is most important is to have a security policy? However, when we see that a lot of companies actually don't have a security company, and I'm not just making this up, when we see that 1 out of 2 corporations think that security policies are not necessary, we say they are opening themselves up for attack. Why, you may ask, that these security companies are so foolish to actually say that, you know what, security isn't important? There are actually a few reasons. First and foremost, security policies are very troublesome to implement. They limit the freedom of their workers, which 1, may make the workers unhappy. 2, will limit the efficiency of the workers. And 3, may make the workers feel that I can't do much anyway, therefore limiting their creativity. And these reasons are not unfounded. As we can see here, even though in some corporations do incorporate policies, people tend to ignore them. So why? Actually, there are a few reasons also. First and foremost, there's a miscommunication between the management board and the employees. We see that how do you actually inform the employees about these certain policies? Some of them inform them through email, but frankly, who reads emails nowadays, right? Some of them also inform them through verbal. But this verbal communication, there is no guarantee that these employees actually understand what you're trying to bring through. And when these employees don't understand what you're trying to tell them, how can you expect them to comply with your certain policy? Now, even if they understand the certain policy, they may not incorporate it into their daily lives because, as I said, security policies are very troublesome and restrictive. I'll give you an example of myself this time. When I was very enthusiastic about learning history when I entered Form 4, but when I opened my textbook and faced 2 walls of words, I went this. You see, when you see too much information, when you are turned off by a certain policy, when these employees look at the security policies and say, wow, you expect me to not use Facebook on public websites, you expect me to not go social networking at work, you expect me to always make sure I have a secure connection no matter where I am? It's too troublesome. So, what happens now? People ignore. And when ignorance comes into play because of laziness, we say this is because of human nature. And ladies and gentlemen, how do we change human nature? Compared to technology, when humans can create something better to counter it, human nature has been constant since the dawn of time. Since every human now, in the past and in the future, will have the same nature as current humans. And when such a difficult thing to comprehend, and therefore such a difficult thing to combat, such as human nature, we say that ignorance and lack of policies are hard to combat, hard to prevent, impossible to cure, therefore the bigger threat towards corporations regarding leakage of information. With that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. I would now call upon the second speaker from Team B to present their proposal. Please give a hand to Adam Haikal bin Mohammad Hilmi.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone present. Basically, in my speech, I shall be explaining to you as to why ignorance is an undeniably large threat to organizations in terms of leakage of information. I shall explain to you, firstly, what is ignorance in the context that we're talking about. Secondly, I'll explain to you, I'll give examples of ignorance and how it has affected companies in a negative manner. Third, I shall explain to you the cause of this ignorance within this current circumstances. And fourth, the danger of that ignorance and how it leads to leakage of information. However, before I move on to any of that, allow me to explain to you as to why our side did not choose technology in this proposal. We think that technology already exists within the circumstances. Technology, in order to prevent any form of leakage of information, already exists. However, the very fact that leakage of information happens is not caused by the absence of technology. It is caused by the absence of awareness or the ignorance of executives of companies or employees which refuse to prioritize information of security. We think that data loss prevention softwares already exist, however, people choose not to implement them, which is why technology is not a significant or relevant topic in this proposal. So allow me to move on to ignorance. First of all, what is this ignorance that we're talking about? Basically and generally, ignorance basically means negligence. Negligence, but in this particular scope, we think that ignorance means negligence of a particular company or employees towards information security or the security of any data which their company possesses. Now, we think that this ignorance is very detrimental because it potentially leads to the leakage of information. Now, what are the living manifestations of this ignorance that we speak of? Let's look at several examples. Well, firstly, and this is research done by Cisco, which is a very successful multinational corporation. 46% of employees transfer files between work and personal computers when they work from home. Why is this bad? When they transfer these files may or may not contain documents which contain top secret confidential information which can only belong to their company and cannot be exposed to the general public. These might include plans for the future, research and development for their products, and if they were to transfer them into the personal computers with minimal security, then these computers firstly are shared with everybody in the house or with their friends and can be exposed and can be shared amongst lots of people, especially when it's valuable information like that. But moreover, the security of personal computers are not as tight as work computers. Hence, they're easily infiltrated by anybody who has malice intent. Second, misuse of passwords. Their research also shows that 18% of their employees share their passwords with their colleagues. This means that anybody who is able to attain this password from any of these workers are able to access any of the other co-workers' devices, accounts, anything like that. And those accounts, those devices might also contain top secret information, which leads to that leakage. This rate, for your information, hikes up to 25% in countries like China, India, and Italy, which also increases the possibility and risk and tendency of that particular problem. Now, why do we think that people are ignorant? First of all, let's talk about companies which have a lack of policies in containing their information or in tightening up the security of their information. Now, why do they do so? First of all, we think that the priority of all companies in the private sector is to maximize profit. Now, some companies perceive that information security is not a large factor in determining or in maximizing profit, hence they neglect it to a very large extent. So what do they focus on? They focus on selling their product, they focus on advertising their products, and they focus on research and development to improve their products. However, little do they know that if this information or if this data were to leak, then they would also suffer from a massive downturn in terms of economic productivity, which also does not meet their objective. However, most companies who perform as such have not experienced or have not suffered this particular problem, hence realization does not come to them. We think that this should be prevented before any of these problems reach them in the first place. But secondly, in terms of companies which do have policies, but the employees still do not comply by these policies. I think that the cause of that type of ignorance is either because the companies do not provide sufficient education towards their employees, or basically these employees decide to prioritize their own personal selfish needs instead of the corporations. Now, why do we think that ignorance is so harmful? Is because it leads to leakage of information in two different aspects. First of all, whistleblowing. How does it cause whistleblowing? It causes whistleblowing if the executives of the company were to be ignorant and there is a lack of policies to maintain the security of that information. And employees who should not know the company's information are able to access that information. Then if they were to find any illegal activity, they would report, and we think that this is bad because whistleblowing, as explained by first speaker, significantly deteriorates the reputation of a company and also hinders people from purchasing products from that company and such. Companies are also prone to hacking if ignorance is present because the lack of policies, the lack of security allows other people from other countries with malice intent to infiltrate their database and acquire this information. All in all, we think that this should be prevented. We think that it is bad and it is dangerous. With all these reasons, ladies and gentlemen, I am very proud to propose.
We have heard the points raised by the second speaker from Team B. Thank you. The session continues with Naveen Vinosh Venudra, the third speaker from Team A.
Let me tell you a story here, okay? Imagine a man named John. John is like any other worker here. He's hardworking, he's determined, but there's one thing that makes John very frustrated, is that his co-workers take advantage and they take credit for the things he does. So what is John's rash decision? What he does is he goes to the company's main contender. He gives them information in order to get a job there. So in our discourse today, we want to find out how we can prevent accidents like this from happening again. So let's say his company had a non-disclosure agreement. Would this have happened? No, it would not. So that is why we believe that the lack of policy poses a bigger threat. But before that, a very good afternoon to everyone in the hall today. My name is Nevin, and I'm the Chief Information Officer from our side today. Now, the topic that has been burdened upon us today is, in an organization, in regards to leakage of information, what poses to be a bigger threat? Coming from our side, we strongly believe that it is the lack of policies that poses to be a bigger threat. Now, first and ladies and gentlemen, look at this. Just to recap, what is the lack of security policies? The lack of security policies is basically less action to prevent against unwanted access, damage, destruction, or modification. So, what are the effects to companies and industries here? The main thing is that secret files of a companies can be destroyed, can be stolen, and even hacked. So, by the end of my speech, I'll prove to you 3 things, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, on how effective policies and the benefits of it. Second, on how effective policies will help on other threats. And thirdly, I'll prove to you, ladies and gentlemen, the hand-by-hand solution on how we can better these policies. So, how does ignorance occur? Now, ignorance usually occurs to employees, either that they don't know or they don't care. As my second speaker has already stated, through these policies, there's also the element of education. So, what we want to do is educate these employees to prevent loss of information. So, what do we do, ladies and gentlemen? I'm here to give you the solutions to how we can make effective policies to prevent leakage of information. As you all know how the Malay proverb goes, sediakan payung sebelum hujan, which means prepare the umbrella before it rains. So that is why we are taking a broader perspective here to prevent, to take proactive measures so that we can counter this before it happens. So the first thing that we want to do is risk assessments. Now, why is it so important to do risk assessments? Because when we do risk assessments, we can find the root cause of it. And when we can find the root cause, we can address it at the starting point. Now, take a look at the next one, black and white. I don't mean Michael Jackson here. What I mean is that we need written documents. Because in legal cases where an employee and an employer go to court, you need legal documents saying why that what your employee did was wrong and certain things of information which cannot be leaked. The third thing is an acculturation. What is the difference between awareness, knowing, and acculturation? Well, according to Miller's pyramid, do is at the top and knowing is at the bottom. So the difference with acculturation is a practicality. Means we put it into our lives because when it comes to something like this, we need the employees to know it by hand. We need them to be able to make sure that they know that these policies are there for a reason, so that leakage of information will never occur. And that is why our choice here today is to turn it into an acculturation. Look at this. What are the improvements that we will see here, ladies and gentlemen? One improvement is that we will develop a new policy that provides mechanisms to protect the organizations before these things occur. Another thing is that we want to develop a policy that balances between current practices and future accomplishments that we wish to find. Why do we do this? So that we can maintain what has already been done and we can work towards the future to creating better policies so that loss of information can be reduced. So, ladies and gentlemen, what are the effects of these effective policies towards these companies that we want to ensure? There are three main effects. Firstly, brand advertising. It's very important that when a company goes, and what happens when leakage of information is given out, we lose reputation. What happens when we lose reputation? When we lose reputation, a whole company's name is gone. So do you see the severity of this leakage of information? And do you now see the severity that we have to take to enforce these policies, to make sure that we can stop this? And lastly, to increase the market share of companies. So I hope that I've convinced you that with these enforced policies, we can show you. So what is the concept of what I've showed you today? The main concept of what I've showed you is that look how effective that when we put the proper policies, look how effective it is. Now, imagine if these improvements are not done. What will we see? We will see more losses of information being done. That is why we believe it is a bigger threat if we do not fix the policies now, and we believe that lack of policies poses a bigger threat in an organization regarding to leakage of information. With that, thank you.
Thank you, Navin. Now let us listen to the speech by the third and last member of Team B, Irfan Anik bin Rozi. You have heard the points. Please.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to everyone present in this hall. So, before I move on to what I'm going to present today, firstly I would like to quote something a wise man once said. Don't trouble trouble until trouble troubles you. We have identified the problem for today, which is data leakage, and this is what we should do. This is our proposal for today to counter this problem in the end of the day. So, before going in depth in our proposal for today, let me recap on what are the harms in order for you to understand what are the importance of this proposal in the end of the day. So, let's recap the harms. Firstly, we know that leakage is the main cause for a company to lose its business, for a company to lose its customers, and also when companies goes bankrupt or companies lose their business, that means people lose their jobs. So, how should we counter this problem? Well, we came up with a simple solution. This is the solution. Data leakage prevention system or software, which this technology has already existed today, but I will explain deeper on what should be done towards this technology so that companies would prevent their data from being leaked into the wrong hands, right? So, to understand this DLP, firstly we need to know why data leakage prevention system exists in the first place. What is data, right? To companies, access to its data are the bloodlines of the company. This data is very important and it acts as a guideline to them. It also contains information regarding privacy and also the confidentiality of each individuals that work in that certain company, or also the confidentiality of what the company does, meaning what does the company do to obtain profit or anything else that has to do with the confidentiality of the company. So, we see that these things, this data, are at risk of leaving these companies or being handed to the wrong hands. And this is why we should go on with our proposal for today, which is to apply data leakage prevention system to every company that exists in any state. Well, firstly, we need to understand what data leakage prevention system is. Well, data leakage prevention system is a system or a software that prevents people from having access to this data. But I'll explain it later on in my proposal, right? But firstly, what do we propose for today? Well, we believe that it's government responsibility to make it compulsory for every company to apply data loss prevention in their system. Why? Because we believe that this is very important and data leakage is the biggest cause, as I already explained. But secondly, what policies should they encrypt in this data loss prevention software? Well, we suggest you two things that you should encrypt in this DLP. Well, firstly, the policy of email security and data protection, which analyzes the email that are only explicit towards the company, meaning that if these email are explicit towards the company and you were to send this email, this DLP will detect it and prevent it. But also we apply the policy of endpoint security and data protection policy, which analyzes any files that has anything with this company and also prevents it from being transferred via email or even software, which is thumb drives or anything that you have to transfer it to, and also from being uploaded towards the web. And these are the policies that should be followed by every company that exists in this world to prevent the data from being leaked. How do we do so? Yes, we believe that this is very hard to do so because this policy is new. But we believe that an investment towards this is very, very valuable because then it will prevent more losses or more companies from being brought down in the end of the day. So, firstly, when government apply this policy towards every company that exists, we believe that they should do courses or they should do talks towards these companies or towards the representatives of this company on to what steps that should be taken by them in order to set up this data leakage prevention system in their company in the first place. So, I will explain you the steps to take in order to set up this DLP. 8 steps. First step is to understand who brings an impact towards your organization. What do we mean by this? You see what regulations are you abide by so that you won't go against it. And I will explain how you will know this in my 3rd step. But secondly, you kick on an internal project on how you should organize or document the stuff that you feel that are important before you even start so that it makes your process initializing the LP easier. But thirdly, you should secure censorship with the senior management. And this is when you obtain advices from your manager on what to do and what not to do, who should be involved, who should obtain this data in the first place. And also, fourthly, this is when you gather up a project team that specializes in fields of their own kind so that it will be easier for them to do your work or anything that you want. And fifthly, you need to identify the data that you have within your organization, which is important, and when it's important, that's why you need to prioritize first. Lastly, plan out the policies for being identified. I already shown you the policies, and this is what we should do. Last but not least, we need to educate the people on what the LP is so that it deters and prevents people from doing or obtaining data in the first place, therefore preventing leakage in the end. So the importance prevent these cases, and less companies will go out of business just because of data leakage, and also it reduces the amount of losses and improves Malaysia's economy. With that, thank you.
Thank you, Irfan. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard all the points deliberately presented by both the teams, and now we'll allow each team 5 minutes to prepare their enlightenment. The clock starts now. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the floor, the enlightenment session shall now commence. The speaker from the team B will deliver his enlightenment first. Please welcome Adam Haikal bin Muhammad Hilmi.
Ladies and gentlemen, as human beings, it is never in our best interest to be left without money, to be homeless, sleeping by the street without anything to wear, without anything to eat. It is also never in our best interest to be shunned upon by society and to be in the shadow of active condemnation. As human beings, it is fair to agree that that is true. Moreover, what more of a private corporation which aims to provide products and services to society, who aims to make society's lives better? We think that it is more impactful towards them than it is to us. So, ladies and gentlemen, I shall be summarizing our proposal in 2 simple questions. First of all, what are the most impactful causes of data leakage? And secondly, what is the best way to prevent and to curb data leakage? So first of all, what are the most impactful causes of data leakage? We told you that the first one in my first speaker speech was whistleblowing. Whistleblowing generally means the reporting of criminal or illegal activity that your corporation is actively engaging in by one of their employees. Clear examples of whistleblowing include Edward Snowden, who whistleblew about NSA. And secondly, as told by Yet, Sami Kamkar for Google, Microsoft, and Apple, Ted Siska for USIS, etc., etc. So why do we think that whistleblowing is so bad? It's because the reporting to the authorities is not just about what your company plans to do in the future. It's about criminal activity. And it's easy, and we have to concede that criminal activity is condemned by everybody worldwide. Nobody appreciates a criminal. Criminals are sent to jail. They are individuals who are abhorrent in nature, and they do not deserve a place in our society until they have rehabilitated. And so why is this so detrimental towards the reputation of a company? For example, Apple. Apple, one of its subcontractors or one of its suppliers is Foxconn. Foxconn is a company in China who manufactures the products of Apple through illegal methods that go against the concept of human rights. For example, child labor. So normally, or logically, as a consumer, would I buy a product from Apple that I know has been constructed out of the poor labor of a young child, 10-year-old child, who cannot be able to school, who is paid with minimal amount of income, who is left there and is tortured and is forced to work for that manufacturer? As a decent human being and as a consumer, I would say that I would not buy that. And this causes those companies to experience a major downturn in their economic productivity. And we say that in the perspective of a company, that is necessarily bad. And whistleblowing is definitely bad for these companies. Secondly, ignorance. The ignorance of companies or the ignorance of employees of a particular company towards the importance of the security of information also significantly harms these companies as well. What does this mean? Because of their ignorance, as explained to you, this data is able to leak and is exposed to all other members of society or to other companies. And if these forms of data also include whatever plans and research and development to improve their products, then other companies will be able to hijack these, and the competition will be significantly greater, and these companies will also experience a major downturn in terms of economic productivity. Second question, what is the best way for us to prevent this leakage of information? As explained by my third speaker, we think and we propose that each company should have a data loss prevention software, and that each company should follow by two major policies in accordance with this software. The first policy is email security, which is meant to analyze every single email or every single message sent out of that particular account of those particular computers to analyze whether there is any form of that information. And secondly is the endpoint security, which acts to block whoever that sends this information outside, and this information cannot be transferred to anything, anywhere. Lastly, he also told you about 8 steps, which includes also courses in education for people who aren't able, who do not possess the knowledge to, regarding data loss prevention or data leakage. With all these reasons, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Sir, I have a question for you, sir. All right, you see, your proposition is no different from the DLP, data leakage prevention, which is already what we have in the status quo. So how is your proposition better? And how are you going to incentivize profit-based organizations to accept and actually implement your proposal? Please clarify, sir.
Well, the reason as to why our proposal is very similar to DLP is because our proposal is DLP. You see, right now, within status quo, not many companies use it. Not many companies exercise it and practice it because some of them may think that it is very costly or burdening in terms of finance. Now, how are we going to incentivize private organizations to use it? Is this. Well, you have to understand that if your data were to leak and other companies or people were to know about your information, first, if it's criminal activity, there is going to be a deterioration of reputation and people aren't going to buy from you. But secondly, if other companies were to be able to access your information, then the competition would be greater and they would hijack that particular information. And so in the best interest of profit-based organizations, they would not want this data leakage to happen. And in order for it not to happen, they would have to implement the proposal that we suggest right now. I hope that answers your question.
Well, you see, for whistleblowing to occur, they have 2 important criteria. First of all, criminal activity has to happen in the organization. Second of all, the individual must intentionally and deliberately leak information. So how do you expect whistleblowing to be a big threat to legitimate companies like CyberSafe Malaysia? And how do you expect whistleblowing to be a big threat to loyal employers who do not even want to disclose information? Thank you.
Sir, it is not about the act of whistleblowing. It is the outcome of whistleblowing that is the best interest, or it is in the thing that you have to look at. Because whistleblowing is basically the process of it. The outcome of whistleblowing, which harms the reputation and basically going to having lawsuits or law firms attacking you. Those are the outcomes that initially and directly harms your particular corporation or your particular organization. So those costs, or basically lawsuits going after you, is a cost of whistleblowing. To make it simple enough, without whistleblowing, they wouldn't get caught, one, but also they wouldn't get fines and people would still buy their products. That is why we think and we know that whistleblowing is a direct harm towards these companies financially and as well for their products.
Thank you for Team A for the POIs, and thank you for Team B. You have just heard the enlightenment delivered by the Team B. And now, to end the session, I would like to call upon Jason Lee Renjun from the Team A to present on his enlightenment.
Ladies and gentlemen, we meet again in the enlightenment session. So when we see that today's topic is about what is the biggest threat towards an organization with regards to leakage of information, there's a few criteria we have to take into account. First of all, the severity of the problem. When we see that Ebola becomes a worldwide threat, it's not because of it's just affecting one or two countries, it is spreading across the world. Therefore, when we identify a threat that is limited to a certain party, we can't say that it's a big threat towards all organizations. Next, the next criteria we have given you is that how corporations are vulnerable to the certain type of threat. When we see that we are not really prepared to overcome ignorance, we are not really equipped to overcome the lack of policies, because these very aspects are actually involving human nature, which we can't change using technology, we say that we are more vulnerable. Next, we say it is harder to solve because, as I said just now, when it comes to human nature, it is pretty hard to alter it, especially when we're talking about working age adults. So what have my team brought to you today? My CEO came up and told you about the types of data leakage, about why we chose policies. Because there are a lot of policies out there, ladies and gentlemen. There are privacy policies, there are secret policies, and there are a lot more policies. And there are also a lot of types of data. For instance, you have a policy of handling data. When it is in storage, for instance, in USB drives, you have a policy to handle data in motion. For instance, when you're talking to someone or having a conference with a business partner overseas. You have a policy when disposing of old data that you don't use anymore. All of these policies are there for a reason, that data is most vulnerable to be leaked at these moments. But we have to understand that the policies alone doesn't pose a threat. Lack of policies come hand in hand with ignorance. Because, as they said, and I fully agree, that corporations, not only we who stand on the stage here, understand that leak of information poses a long-term threat, poses a long-term detrimental effect towards the corporation. So you may ask, even if they know that it was so bad, why aren't they stopping it? Because they simply don't care enough to stop it. You see, even if with policies in place, if the employees just ignore the policies there, the policies won't be of much effect. Let me give you an example. In 2012, the Israeli Defense Forces was going to launch an operation. However, one of his soldiers posted an update on the time and location of the operation on where? None other than Facebook. Therefore, when we see that there is the privacy policy of a nation to not disclose classified information, they actually just don't care because it is their own private life. And when ignorance comes into play, we have to take into account that these people are not going to follow your policies no matter how good they are if their mindset is just to ignore whatever you're going to say. So why didn't we choose technology and whistleblowing? I've explained to you that humans created technology, therefore it is only natural to humans to create better technology to combat whatever technology that people are using out there. Why didn't we choose whistleblowing? As we said, whistleblowing only applies to a limited section of organizations, either illegal organizations, like what they say about Foxconn using child labor. We say that is totally illegal and should not happen. And it only happens when people inside deliberately wants to disclose information. We have to understand that most information is disclosed accidentally. And when accidental the information is disclosed, like misplacing a hard drive, we say that whistleblowing isn't really that much of a threat. With that, my 4 minutes is up. Any POIs?